to the advocates behind me, thank you for being such an inspiration. Last weekend, a little 3-year-old boy who was sitting in the back seat of a car with his 4-year-old and 5-year-old sibling on a street in the north end of Hartford. In the front seat was his mother and her friend. A black Honda Accord pulled up next to that car, and those in the Honda fired into the car containing those 3 children. The 3-year-old died. The 4- and 5-year-old siblings, the mother, survived. The 3-year-old gunned down dead in the middle of a Sunday afternoon in the streets of Hartford. And deservedly, that crime captured our state's attention. One of approximately 100 people that day across the country who died from a gunshot wound. And I want you to think about that little boy, but I also want you to think about his 2 siblings. Think about his mother. Think about his cousins and his grandparents. Think about all of the lives that are fundamentally changed when something that cataclysmic happens. Those 2 other kids sitting in that back seat, they will have a memory of that will scar them for the rest of their lives. And the guns that are used in these crimes in Hartford are more often than not illegal guns that are trafficked into our state, bought outside of our state, often in places where you don't have to do universal background checks. We have universal background checks in Connecticut, but these guns don't care about state borders. And until we have a federal law that requires a background check to be done everywhere, then you are going to wake up on many days to news of 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds being shot on Saturday and Sunday afternoons. That can't happen in this country, and now is the moment. I've been on the phone over the course of the last several weeks with my Republican colleagues. I see a pathway to get a bill done to dramatically expand the number of background checks that are done in this country. But I also understand that we have a bill that's passed the House of Representatives that is supported by 90% of the American public. 90% of the American public support the bill that has already passed the House of Representatives. And while many of us remain open to compromise with our Republican colleagues, we should ask ourselves why there should be any need for compromise on a bill that already has 9 out of 10 Americans supporting it. The people of this country have done their job. In fact, they've done everything a democracy would have asked of them. They have elected a House of Representatives that supports universal background checks. They kicked out of office in 2018 and 2020 over 30 members of Congress who were A-rated by the gun lobby. Then, last fall and last winter, the voters empowered a United States Senate that supports universal background checks. In Georgia, they had 2 candidates that opposed universal background checks on the ballot and 2 candidates who supported universal background checks. And they came to the polls and decided that they wanted a Senate controlled by a party that supports universal background checks. And then, of course, they put into the White House a champion of anti-gun violence measures. The voters have done everything we and democracy asks of them. Now it's our turn. Now it's our turn to show America that democracy can work and pass a piece of legislation that is supported by the vast, overwhelming majority of the American people, a piece of legislation that will unquestionably save thousands and thousands of lives. Thank you for traveling the country, for collecting the stories of these heroes, families and individuals who are still suffering from grief but have the courage to be able to tell their stories. Thank you for delivering these pieces of both tragedy and inspiration to Senator Blumenthal and I. We will share them with our colleagues. We are going to muster all of the intellectual and emotional energy that we can find to get a background checks bill passed here in the United States Senate. We don't have time to waste. We don't want to wake up to more headlines like we did in Connecticut last weekend. It is in our power to make sure that democracy still can deliver on an issue that enjoys 90% public support. Thank you very much for having us both.